New this morning, a wild and high-speed chase in Albuquerque that lasted for almost an hour and a half. Now take a look. This is where it all ended at Louisiana and Central about 1 o'clock this morning. Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies say it all started way before that at 11:30 last night when they got a call of some people trying to break into a home on Glendale near Ventura, north of Alameda. They say the truck in the driveway sped off and even almost hit the deputies there. Later, state police tried to stop that same truck on I-25, saying it was going more than 100 miles an hour and even speeding into oncoming traffic. So investigators on the ground backed off and they tracked it from the air, and eventually they spun that truck out. They say it is this one, and they used what's called a pit maneuver to do that. And again, this is at Central in Louisiana. Investigators took 4 people into custody, but they wouldn't say anything else about what happened. We should have updates for you a little bit later today on this. Well, at 6:01, a church in Albuquerque says a guy who used to go there is now threatening that church with a mass shooting.
And church officials say they've dealt with this guy before. Calvary Church's security coordinator, Vince Harrison, tells News 13 a man by the name of Brian Jaramillo was banned from the church after he threatened other church members about a month ago. Well, on Monday, Harrison says Jaramillo sent the church an email threatening a mass shooting at Wednesday services. Calvary is stepping up security and alerting other churches about Jaramillo.
We take it serious. We do a lot of training, an active shooter. We do a lot of training to prepare for situations like this.
News 13 has learned Jaramillo was taken in for a mental health evaluation earlier this week. APD confirms they are investigating him, but he has not been charged with any crime at this point. By the way, it was just a year ago that Calvary Church experienced another disturbing situation. A former pastor and his family at his home, they were murdered by their 15-year-old son, 15-year-old Nehemiah Griego. Valencia County is following in Albuquerque's footsteps, striking down a proposed ban on late-term abortion. There have been pleas from both sides and 2 public hearings. Last night, in a 3-2 vote, commissioners voted down the ordinance banning abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. The New Mexico Children, Youth and Families Department is under fire for its handling of a case of alleged child abuse. That case involves 9-year-old Omari Varela. Police say the boy was kicked to death by his mother, Cynthia Varela Casals, who is now facing charges. The Albuquerque Journal reports CYFD has a history of staffing shortages. In 2011, a legislative audit found that the department was plagued by a turnover in workers as well as an inefficient management structure.
Governor Susana Martinez is looking for $10 million to help seal the deal with new businesses thinking of setting up shop here in New Mexico. That is a 300% increase in that program's budget from last year and $6 million more than what legislators have in their budget. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out during the legislative session. It's supposed to go for 30 days. It starts on January 21st. Well, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel here is set to be in Duke City today, touring Sandia National Labs and Kirtland Air Force Base. Mr. Hagel will be briefed on how they're getting more modern. He'll also hear about the safety and security of the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Now, before his stop here, Secretary Hagel will visit Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio to visit with veterans who are hurt. Well, delays and overspending on a $213 million security system at Los Alamos National Lab are now all being blamed on bad management. The security system's upgrade was almost finished when the lab's leaders discovered it didn't work. A new report from the Department of Energy's Inspector General says the problems delayed that project almost a year, putting it $41 million over budget. The National Nuclear Security Administration is holding the contractors responsible for this.
It's been a year of record earnings for the State Land Office thanks to the New Mexico oil and gas boom. Land Commissioner Ray Powell says his office brought in more than $670 million for public schools, hospitals, and other beneficiaries last year. Powell says most of the revenue is from high oil and gas prices and increased volume. If prices remain high and developers continue drilling through the summer, Powell says the state could see an additional $100 million in earnings. Experts are already warning about a possible water shortfall this year, despite all the rain and snow that we saw last year. It's been very dry, if you haven't already noticed, in New Mexico and southern Colorado. The feds say unless we get moisture soon, there may not be enough water from the San Juan Chama diversion project to give all users in New Mexico as much as they're supposed to get. The project moves water from the Colorado River Basin through tunnels under the Continental Divide and puts it into the Rio Grande Basin. Albuquerque is the biggest user, by the way.
We've been very responsible about being a good custodian of the water. We've got a 4-year reserve supply up in Abiquiu Reservoir.
There was a similar warning about San Juan Chalma water last year, but in the end, there was enough water to go around.
A wild animal swap is now in the works between New Mexico and Arizona. Now, here's how this is going to work. Next week, State Game and Fish will capture 200 pronghorn antelope, just like these, in the northeastern part of New Mexico and send 40 to Arizona. In return, Arizona will send us 60 very rare birds known as Gould's turkeys.
Gould's turkeys are unique in that they're only found in 2 states in the United States and 2 states in Mexico.
The birds will help the Gould's turkeys breed here in New Mexico. Meanwhile, the rest of the antelope caught next week will be moved to areas near Roswell and Ruidoso, where the drought has cut down the population.